In this daily drop, I'm going to give you some of my initial thoughts on the 24-105 f2.8 and the 70-200 f2.8 hybrid lenses from Canon. So let's go. Okay, everybody, back from San Antonio. I am happy to no longer be in weather that is in the 100-degree Fahrenheit to 107 or 8-degree Fahrenheit realm. Cooler here in Oregon and good to be home. So I have now shot 2 projects with the sensor that is in the Canon EOS C80 and the camera that's over there, which is the Canon EOS C400. And in both of those interview-based projects, and I've done daily drops on those, I have used what is my understanding, the only 24-105 f2.8 lens that exists, regardless of manufacturer. And then there are plenty of 70-200 f2.8 lenses out there on the market, but this is a sibling type of situation here, right? We've got brothers or sisters or a brother and a sister, and these 2 lenses are really made to work with each other. And in my opinion, especially when you're shooting on a full frame sensor-based camera, sort of ideal lenses for interviews. They're fast enough. They are true f2.8 all the way through the range. I don't know about you, but a lot of us have had a lot of history with the 24-105 f4 lens, sort of the workhorse of the once DSLR world, and so many people use those with Canon Cinema EOS cameras, including myself. But there was a noticeable, very noticeable drop-off when you started to get towards the end of that focal length on that lens. So somewhere in that 24 to 80, 85 range, it seemed to held it held that that aperture, and then it was sort of not quite falling off of a cliff, but there was a significant fall off in terms of exposure. And when a lens is rated as an f4 all the way through, the expectation is your exposure doesn't change and doesn't ramp. If it's not a constant aperture, then that's different. But these lenses are rock solid. I don't see any change in exposure levels, but most importantly, and I'm not getting into all the features of these lenses, so on and so forth, they're clickless, they have multiple image stabilizer modes and all of that stuff. And of course, with these RF lenses, we can program this ring. There's buttons here that are programmable, especially on these hybrid lenses, which can be converted. There's contacts in here so that you can attach and use a servo. They're actually really quite lightweight. They're not as lightweight as the Fujinon lenses, the MK series, but these are full frame lenses, and those are for Super 35 based cameras. So all I'm going to say is, and you've seen some of the footage, and in fact, the last daily drop that I did, of course, there's an alarm that's going off right now while I'm doing the daily drop. It's the constant with production. The shoot that we just did in San Antonio, everything was quiet in the school the whole time we were setting up. Even when we were doing charts and tone and everything, it was completely silent. Somebody sits in the chair for an interview, boom, chaos, right? That's just the way it seems to be in production. So I've come to accept it. It's just part of life, and I can't change that. And there you go. So what I was saying is, the last daily drop that I did, I showed the A and B cameras, but fundamentally, it's, do you like the image? And do you like what's being captured? And these lenses are sharp. These lenses look great. They have that standard, which I think for a lot of people, they gravitate to warmth that the Canon lenses have. And while I love using lenses from other manufacturers, if I think about using a Zeiss lens, it's definitely more neutral, and I'm not talking about every lens that Zeiss makes, but that Zeiss look is very punchy in terms of contrast. It's more neutral. I wouldn't say it's clinical, but it's great for a baseline to do something with. But what I really like about the Canon lens is when you're doing things like interviews, case studies, that type of work, these lenses just have a really great sharp look, but not overly sharp, and they have a warmth to them. And of course, that can be changed in post depending on how you're shooting. We shot everything Canon Log 2, Cinema Gamut, and then that will then get adjusted in post. What you're seeing from the interviews is really just very down and dirty kind of adjustments. John Romer, the DP, went in and just made sure that he had a little formula for what we were doing for our two setups, and then we sent that off to the editor as a starting point. So basically starting with a base adjustment, so orders of operation, making some adjustments to some of the brightness and things like that, and then applying a LUT, and then making some additional adjustments if necessary. But all in all, even just sort of at a base level, I'm very, very happy with the image that not only the sensor is producing, but the initial reactions for me on the 24-105 and the 70-200, which we are generally using at an f2.8 for interviews. And usually rating at an 800 in terms of ISO. But I love the fact that we have this triple ISO system. In some ways more versatile than dual gain, in some ways not. That's a different discussion for another day. But if I'm trying to do certain things in production, for instance, I want to get more light into the space or the background of what we're doing, then there's so much flexibility in terms of setting light levels with fixtures, setting ISO with the cameras. Again, a different discussion for a different day, but the versatility is there, and I am very, very happy that I have this pair of lenses for the majority of the types of work that I do. Right now, I've got the STM 28-70 on the C400, which has also been a great little lens for B-roll running around. Again, on a full frame. Maybe on a crop sensor, it's a little too long in terms of the starting focal length, 28 millimeters. But for run and gun stuff, that f2.8 28-70 STM lens for about $1,100-$1,200 is also really, really nice. So there, those are my initial thoughts on these two lenses. I'll talk more about them in the future. Don't forget to. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.